Here we go. Hello, darlings. That's in response to Julie's comment. I'm ready for this. Good morning, everybody. My name is Margaret Pennard. I'm a historical fiction and fantasy author, and I'm coming to you from yet another different location. So, what do we have today? I usually do book tags, book wrap-ups, reviews, interviews with authors for my Booktube and AuthorTube channel. And today we have a single tag. Now, most of the people in the chat will know that I tend to do tags in 2s or 3s because they pile up. But this one is special. It is less than a month. Usually it's 6, 7, 8 months until I get to tags. This one, I was tagged by the original creator, Gareth, at Book Songs and Other Magic on March 25th, and it is April 24th. So I just got in under the wire, less than a month. So yeah, that's what I thought I would do. I am traveling. I am in between. I am still living out of a suitcase. So, a single tag will have to do for you, my lovelies, this morning. I have a question of the day for you. Just a fun one to toss in there. What's the last book you bought or acquired, even temporarily, which means the library? Just trying to get on your mind that tomorrow is Independent Bookstore Day, and maybe you need to treat yourself because maybe you do, right? So just to say hello to everyone in the chat. Gareth was here. Catpo is here. Hello, hello. And I just echoed their hellos. Gareth says, I see the Ray in the thumbnail. Yeah, because I looked up, sometimes they'll have author silhouettes or paintings or watercolors in Canva. And no, this is all that came up is manta rays. So I included a manta ray. Yeah, and I'm going to go over this really quickly at the beginning. How much Ray Bradbury have I read? I read Fahrenheit 451 in middle school. So when I was 13 for class. Really liked it. Thought it was excellent. I have not read anything else. Have not reread it since then either. So yeah, that's the entirety of my experience with Ray Bradbury. I know nothing about his life, his contemporaries, so it should be interesting if I get recommendations on this tag. Julie is here to say hello, hello. Devin was here. Hello, Devin. Welcome. Ray is here. Hello. I saw Ray Bradbury in the title. Well, maybe Ray is a much bigger fan, and Ray should be put on the tag list to do these questions. So if you're curious and you want to do this book tag, which is just answering about 10 prompts, then you can look down in the description to see. They're very accessible. They're not Ray-centered, but they're inspired by Ray Bradbury because Gareth loves Ray Bradbury. We've got an AF Stewart. Hello, Anita. We've got a Greg, Ghost Readers in the Sky. Good morning. Lynn, howdy doody. Evening, wherever you are. Yeah. Devin says, I was at a book event last Saturday and acquired 6 indie books from fellow indies. Well, that is how you do Indie April. So Devin's doing a much better job than I am. Excellent. Nice. Anita says, I recommend his short stories. Yes. Did he do several volumes, though? And are they in a full collected works? Is there a specific one? Because I'm sure he did loads, because early writers, 60s, 70s, that's how they made a living. They made a tidy living, I can say, writing short stories. Some of them, mostly men. So, it was possible back in the day, which is either inspiring or depressing, depending on your mood. Lynn says, last book I bought was Life and Fate by Vasily Grossman, which is a follow-up to his Stalingrad, which is fantastic. Wow. Okay. I think Stalingrad was probably a big one. Is Life and Fate? It sounds like it would be a big book. Yeah. Nice. Jim is here. Good morning. Good evening. Eva is here. Hello, hello. Why was I gonna... There was something I was gonna say that involved Eva. It was something. Oh, it was in case the turkeys speak up. Wow. Okay. I'm sitting with no light, just natural light reflected because I'm in the wrong side of the house, but this is my spare bedroom here that I'm staying in. I'm looking out at the garden, which is nice and sunny. It's a beautiful day in Sacramento. but I was hearing the turkey gobbles. And so I thought, oh, if Eva comes, I'm going to point out, and I hope they do a drive-by turkey gobble, because I've sent her several pictures of turkeys here. I don't know. They just have wild turkeys and they're not allowed to harm them. So they roam suburbia. That's a Ray Bradbury short story right there, if I'm channeling him correctly. Yay, Devin, for new indie books. Are they all sci-fi fantasy, Devin? Yeah, maybe. Men and men adjacent. Oh, okay. All right. Probably something I don't know there. Jim says Record of a Spaceborne Few by Becky Chambers is the last book I bought. I haven't even heard of that title. I'm guessing it's a small hardcover, but you got the digital version. Hi, Leslie. Happy Friday. Hugs all around. Thanks for dropping in. Hope your day's starting well. It's another lovely day here in... What's the song? Another Pleasant Valley Sunday here in... And then they changed the words for each verse. I can't remember. Gareth says, my last purchase was eBay, so not an indie bookshop, but it was a bargain. Rare early Harlan Ellison. Oh, yeah, you were just talking about Harlan Ellison. Oh, Bradbury only read Zen and the Art of Writing. Interesting. Did he do that after the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance one came out? I thought that was the one that started that whole trend. I hope they say I do. I know. Gobble, gobble. Anita says, yes, there are a few collections I'm partial to. From the Dust Returned. Ooh, okay. An excellent audiobook. Very nice. Okay, thank you. I'm going to star this in case I come back. Eva says, my son's book fair just rolled through. Already forgot the titles, but he got a couple. That's awesome. Especially if you had the like little Scholastic catalog beforehand where you could look them all up. Those were the days. Julie says, I was at a used bookstore yesterday. Woohoo! Picked up a few treasures. Excited to read the play Top Dog Underdog by Susan Laurie Parks. Interesting. I don't know the author, but the title is sounding fun. That's cool. Devin says, I'll be at another event for Indie Bookstore Day. Ooh, at an indie bookstore. Another indie is an audiobook walk, meaning you bought another book that is meant to be listened to on a walk. That's really specific. That's cool. I will touch on an audiobook that I've been listening to while driving. That is probably better while walking, but it's still really good. I was listening to it on my drive up here. I'll talk about current reads at the end, as per usual. Cat Paw's Answer, Yesteryear by Caro Claire Burke. And that name sounds familiar, but not the title. My mouth is still waking up, apparently. Oh, I see. Okay, that's not what I was thinking. Gotcha. Men Adjacent was my lame attempt at women writing with male pen names. That makes more sense. Gotcha. Yeah, there were a few of those. Gareth says there's a great Everyman collection of his stories. I have a video coming up on the channel in the summer, my favorite 10 short stories by him, and I talk about his collections. Hi, buddy. Beans just puttering about. Okay. Yeah, you just did a sci-fi either favorites or to start. I can't remember what the hook was. It was something a little twisty. Jim says, I got the mass market paperback from the Tbilisi Book Fair. Oh, okay. So the Record of a Spaceborne Few. It came in mass market paperback. Well, that is surprising, but very cool. Leslie, I had a moment of weakness at the LA Times Book Festival and bought 3 comics. Good for you. Good for you. You know, that's treat yourself day. That's all. I love that trend. Anita says, my latest indie book buy is Never Met an Orc Who Wasn't Moody. It's a fun title. That's a fun title. Oh, boy. Devin says, I got 1 comic by a wife, husband team, 3 romantasy standalones, a historical fiction from Edgar Poe's wife's POV, and a YA fantasy. Oh, my gosh. Okay. Romantasy. Okay, so that's all right. That's sort of in your corner, and historical fiction. So cool. All right, you got a good diverse array. I'm proud. I hope you like the historical fiction in you know, representing my my niche here. Eva says they have book fairs twice, early in the year alongside parent conferences and later in the year alongside stream night. We do get the catalog and then he shops with his class and with me. LOL. Yeah, that's the fun part, right? I don't know. People who like the anticipation, like me, that's the fun part for us. Red Fahrenheit 451, the Velt, and Dandelion Wine. I hadn't heard of the Velt, and I have heard of Dandelion Wine. Nice. Ray says the last book I acquired was from a free little library, a Shakespeare tragedy. Nice. Do you remember which one? What's the last book that I acquired? Let's see. It was also from a little free library because I got one at the thrift store, but then that was on like ancient crafts in Britain. But then there was one that I got from a bookstore. And then I looked at someone's review on Storygraph and they said it was too basic for them. But it was about, it's called Living Resistance. That's what it was. It's a really pretty book and it's really recent. So we'll see. I hope I don't have the same reaction as Jessica at Lady Lovestead Reads because she was about it. But I thought it would be cool. Yeah, little free libraries are great. Eva says next year we're going to only do with me shopping, not with classroom. Turns out a very low portion of the class shops. Interesting. Like they get free time to go to a book fair and they don't go, or they just stay outside and play. Or like they don't have the money to buy the books and so they just like choose to not go. Devin says, sorry, different indie bookstore is hosting an audiobook walk for tomorrow. Oh, okay. Nice. When I've tried to appeal to indie bookstores for the day, they've already done their planning and it's a lot and they don't have room for more people. If I do it earlier, this would probably not be an issue. That's fun. Ray. Yeah, I want to go visit all the little libraries around here as a challenge. I think content creation will encourage. Could be. Yeah. I don't think that's the kind of thing that would motivate you, but maybe a list or a buddy would motivate you. I don't know. I was just writing down the list of motivating factors in my journal for Wednesday stream. And yeah, it was kind of entertaining. Kappa says, Lulu still offers mass market as an option on their website. I hope they still do when it's time to publish Time Shift. I don't think Becky Chambers is using Lulu. That's why I was surprised that it was available in mass market. Whoa. Hey. Okay. Bean is investigating the back of the computer right now. Sorry, that was distracting. Hey, Rachel. I tagged Rachel, so she probably got a notification and is available to be here. So welcome. Eva says, only those with money go to the book fair, those who don't stay in the class. Okay. Oh, that's a bummer. Yeah. 2 to 4 kids per class tend to go. And I'm guessing the class is like 30 kids. Wow. Aw. I wish more kids had the spending spree feeling for a book fair. Eva says, I think it's after the regular library visit, so more the shopping children stay behind to check out. Greg says, I found a novel by Anais Nin at a public library sale. Awesome. I noticed you referred to that author during a recent live. Eva says, my friends don't motivate me, but online strangers do. Content creation has been my best accountability partner. What? On Meta. Sorry, friends. That's okay. That's fine. Really? Okay. I just thought like you've had so many projects going and like the finishing part and making it into a video is usually the part where you're like, not important to me. So that's why I was like, content creation wouldn't be the thing. But yeah, sharing is probably more the thing. And if it's easier on Meta, then I get that. Rachel says, I loved book sales when I was in elementary school. Same. It's a good memory. Okay. All right. So we've covered the question of the day. We've covered how much I've read Ray Bradbury and lots of stuff about book fairs. I wanted to highlight at the beginning who I'm tagging. So you can go and bug them to do this tag if they haven't yet. Rachel's on the list. Kim at an Oasis of Books is on the list. Brian at Bookish Texan, and Mike at Riff Raff Reads. I figured they all had sort of like a sci-fi either exploration or curiosity. So they might be cajoled into doing this tag. And I'll do that again. Pop that up after we get through the prompts. But yes, created by Gareth of Book Songs and Other Magic. So go check out his original version because he does lots of original tags for cultural landmarks that he loves, like the Muppets, etc. All right, so Ray Bradbury, first prompt. Crime and detective beginnings. Choose a book based around a crime. And Jim's going to love this one because I bet Jim would have the same answer. Maybe not, because Jim's read more Russians than I have. So my answer for this was an immediate L'étranger. So the book. And now, Camus, Albert Camus. That's, wow, embarrassing. This is a French novel around mid-20th century where it's talking about colonialism and its impact on identity and morality, maybe. And it's The Stranger, and it starts with a famous first line, and Jim has talked about it on his channel for sure. It's written in French, and I think we read it in a French class in college, and yeah, it's not totally about whether he did the crime, but like why he's singled out. At least that's what it is from my memory. You can correct me if I'm wrong. That's okay. I'm totally open to it. Hello, Captain Nico. Welcome. So, book based around a crime. Number 2, Martian Chronicles. Choose a book set on another world. And I have 2 for this. I have a first one, and then the one I really liked. So the first one is Red Mars by a famous sci-fi author who's still writing, who did a whole series based on this. And this was the first book in that series. It went from Red Mars to Green Mars, I think, and then on. And it's about colonizing Mars and a lot of scientific detail. And, some of it was accessible to me and some of it was interesting and some of it was not. But I did finish. It was quite a long narrative. There was some action in there. And I don't remember how it ends. I just remember being like, wow, that was a lot of mental work to read that book, and I don't need to keep going. Apologies to anyone who is offended by my science fiction candor, but I just like fantasy better. Probably because I don't understand a lot of the science. Nice mention of Camus. He was important in my late teens. Well, feel free to do a Camus tag, Gareth. And says, I just finished L'Étranger by Albert Camus. The writing is very, very plain, and I'm not sure what to think of it yet. Yeah. So I think it's because it wants to lend itself to multiple interpretations so that you can argue about it. That's really what we did in class. And the name for his mother is like one of the main points that people bring up. But yeah, interesting. All right, Martian Chronicles. Oh, The Mars House is the other book, the more recent one, and that is by Natasha Pulley. She's been on the channel. I love her as an author. She likes to do sci-fi or fantastical settings, dystopian settings that will illustrate a point that is about current society, not unlike Ursula K. Le Guin. And The Mars House is about someone who is human on Earth after the Earth is drastically changed and uninhabitable. And he goes to Mars after about 6 or 8 generations of people have already been colonizing, and people have diverged. So there's the people who were there at the beginning and have changed, kind of like you would when you're in space and you lose bone density and all these kinds of things. And then there are the newcomers who are still fleeing Earth. And there's this sort of class difference because of the people who were first there and the people who are just still fleeing the disaster space. Is very good. There's a mystery, there's a twist, there's what would I call that? So in the book I just finished, The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin, there's a consideration of sexuality and identity when there's a race that is not dual sexuality, but all one type, and then they like go into estrus when they're like in heat, kind of like animals. It's a very interesting consideration of how does that change your behavior? How does that change your culture? And the Mars house is not like an experimental thing like that, but really talking about different cultural norms. And one of the first books that I read that had me try to say they normally, like a they them pronouns. So it's a great story, but it also had that little piece that I remember about it in my own reading history. Let's see. One says, I do plan on reading the follow-up book by Kamel Daoud if I can get it in French. Yes, there's a more recent book, I think, that's sort of in conversation, which sounded interesting. I think Jim also talked about that. I don't know. We'll wait for him to lay in. I loved The Mars House, Cat Plus says. Yeah, it was so good. I love Natasha Pulley's writing. I first read The Bedlam Stacks because I picked it up secondhand. I didn't know her at all. And that was so good. Just like involving and suspenseful. And you care about the characters, but you're not sure about them. Like what they're hiding. It's so good. That's okay. The Merceau Investigations. That is what Jim read recently, which is a response by Kamel Daoud, giving the Arab victim a name and a backstory. There you go. Mad World 1962, Jim's books, reading and stuff. Maybe you will have to go and read each other's, watch each other's videos or read each other's reviews, because now you'll have the cross talk about these. That's great. Prompt number 3 is Dandelion Wine, a book that reminds you of your childhood. Okay. And here's when I was going to share this one. Share screen. Oh, it's going to perform site verification on me again. What is your deal, Storygraph? They're just getting weirder and weirder. All right, let me zoom in a little bit. So these are the ones that remind me of my childhood, but not these, because these are not the ones that I remember. It's the author and illustrator team, Audrey and Dawn Wood. What? Is this the only ones they have? All right, let's try again. No, there we go. Here's one that I read, The Napping House. And it's Audrey and Dawn Wood, and it didn't come up in the search, so that's stupid. Anyway, when I was growing up, we had a small bookstore that was children's bookstore down a side street in my hometown. And that is where I remember getting these books signed. The husband and wife team split up eventually, but they had maybe a good 10 years working together to write and illustrate these beautiful children's books. So let me zoom in. The Napping House was a house where everyone was napping, and they're all on top of each other, and I think a flea bites something on the top, and then that animal leaps up, and everyone is disturbed and wakes up, and they're chasing each other around, and of course there's a happy ending. So that was a great children's book. The other ones I remember are Hecate Peg and King Bidgood's in the Bathtub and He Won't Get Out. There we go. They're just beautifully illustrated, like this amazing, come on, it won't zoom anymore. This amazing style of sort of fairy tale-ish stuff. So I have a soft spot for these Audrey and Dawn Wood award-winning children's books. Let's see, they have Hecate Peg. Hecate Peg was actually kind of scary. It's based on a nursery rhyme. And it's the nursery rhyme where the mother is trying to get her kids back from a troll or a witch or something, and he says, cut your feet off and come back and I'll give them back to you. And the which has transformed them into things, right? So she's supposed to recognize her children and as things they've been transmogrified into, and she does, and it's a happy ending. But it was pretty scary, of like cutting off your own feet to save. It was pretty pretty scary for a 6-year-old when it came out. But yeah, those left a big impression on me. So Audrey and Dawn Wood, even though they are not together anymore, was pretty cool. Cat Moss says, an interesting observation is that humans used to be seasonal too, only in summer when food and especially carbs were abundant. Not enough food, no pregnancies. Oh, yeah, kind of like when you're starving and you don't have your period. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm sure there's like a whole bunch of literature that actually in science fiction kind of experiments with this, or, more modern literary fiction, perhaps. Oh, that's why I'm reading these books, because of Jim. Okay. Well, I called it. Excellent. Jim's book influencer. Jim says, I thought napping house, imagining kids making flint arrowheads and spear. No. That's interesting that your mind went there instead of napping, because that's much more common, I think, in these days. But yeah, they're a great team, and they remind me of good points in my childhood. Prom number 4, Something Wicked This Way Comes. No, I haven't seen that movie. I was trying to think, and I was like, why do I know that phrase? Well, I know it because it's popular, but I think they use it in Return to Witch Mountain, which is like a kids movie. Not Tia and Tamara. Tamara, they were twins, and they both had names that started with T, and they were like some government experiment that had magic powers. Stop me if you've heard this one, but it's the second movie that was more popular for some reason. I don't know. The prompt is, it's from Macbeth. Oh, there we go. Something with a witch in it. Okay, so I wrote with a witch. Ooh, yeah. So this is one I read recently that I thought was a good story. Yep. Our witch. Here we go. It's a debut, and it's one that I got on pre-order. And it's called The Hearth Witch's Guide to Magic and Murder. And this is, okay, yes, this is the one that it's reminding me of lots of different works of fiction that are not fantasy. So it may look very cozy, it may look very whimsical on the cover, but it starts with someone who's been in Fey prison in like tortured sleep for 400 years or 200 years or something. And it's like, okay, there's a little heavier theme there than you would expect. And there's like really interesting light touches of things like growing apart and political alliances, and like trusting people, and then there's also like the lore and the cool Fey magic part, and then there's a criminal investigation, and yeah, there's sort of witches in it, but it's not really about hearth witch stuff. There, like I said when I reviewed this not too long ago, there's also a lot of Sherlock Holmes stuff woven in, like Baker Street Address and Mrs. Hudson, the family Hudson, and this kind of stuff that is just, I think, for fun, because there's no reason, and the irregulars. So that kind of stuff, I'm not sure is really meshing with the deeper, heavier themes, but it was an interesting book. It was a really interesting book. I think they might have just like piled a lot of things together that they wanted to get out in their debut. And it was fun to watch. Gareth says, it's from Shakespeare. I remember Return from Witch Mountain. Yeah, I was a kid. Yeah, it's from the 70s, and I remember watching it in the 80s, obviously. And it was so cool. I don't know why. Like kids with powers, obviously. It's probably like that time period's Spy Kids or whatever, but yeah. I think the second was Return to Witch Mountain. Oh, okay. That makes sense, Devin. Return, yeah. Thank you. Devin says, I really wish covers match the content. This cover looks too cozy. Yeah, and I mean, parts of it were cozy, but parts of it were also like violent and a little like just heavy, you know? So I thought it was good. Hi, Constance. Listening while shopping. Like out in the world shopping? That's interesting. What happened to the live last night, Gareth? Everyone okay? Is this I think I commented on a couple things. I think there was a live that was up and then it got taken away. So yeah, Garrett's here. So I think everything's okay, but I think he just was experimenting with something. Prompt number 5, but feel free to weigh in, Gareth, what you were up to back there, up to your tricks. Prompt 5 is Illustrated Man, a book about or featuring your favorite illustrator. Okay, well, I could have gone with Audrey and Donwood because their children's books are lovely illustrations. But what did I put here? I had several. I don't read a lot of books with illustrations. So there's only a handful that I know. And so the ones that I put down that I really remember and made an impression are Quentin Blake. I could put this down. Quentin Blake. Now I'll give you the 3 seconds of time lag for the internet. Who is Quentin Blake most associated with? His illustrations go with whose books, which are childhood classics. Rachel says, yeah, the first is Escape to Witch Mountain. Fun movie, interesting book. Of course it's a book. That's neat. That's good to know. We should have said we had to skip a week because of scheduling. Oh, you're talking about the, not Whose Line Is This? The, Is This Thing On? Okay. I think I was talking about 2 nights ago or 2 afternoons ago where there was a live and then it was immediately taken off. Me and David planning chat. I shouldn't have put it on the channel. Okay, so you made it a live stream instead of a recording. That's got it. Yay, Roald Dahl. Yeah, Quentin Blake they're always so funny, goofy, you know? Comics, special editions have pictures. Roald Dahl, yep, the Brits got it. Quentin Blake also illustrated Daniel Penneck's 10 Rights of the Reader. That's quite a coup for Daniel Penneck. Yes. Very cool. So Quentin Blake was the first one I thought of. Alan Lee, also a very famous illustrator of a famous series. I'm sure you guys can get that one. And Arthur Rackham, who illustrated a famous edition of an author who has already been mentioned. So who is Alan Lee famous for illustrating? Who is Arthur Rackham famous for illustrating? Go. I'll take a sip of my mint tea. No turkey gobbles yet. Yeah. I mean, I don't read any anymore. I just grew up with them, like Matilda. Yeah, knowing he wasn't a good man. No, we haven't chatted about it. Yeah. Yeah. A queer sort of duck. I don't know the details. Yeah. Alan Lee illustrated Tolkien. Woohoo. Yep. Those Ents ain't gonna write themselves. Alan Lee, I believe, is Lord of the Rings. Yes. Well done. And does anyone know Arthur Rackham, an author who's already been mentioned? That's your big clue. Am I the only one who had this edition? It was a abridged edition, or it was one of the books. Yeah. Jim says, I will be reading George's Marvelous Medicine tomorrow with one of my students. Is that a Roald Dahl? Yeah. Devin says, sometimes shitty people make great art. More thumbs up. Yeah. And actually, there was something recent where someone talked about this. And basically it was like, if the person is dead and their estates and hateful views are no longer being funded by buying the books, like that's not as egregious to support the good art or I should say it's not as egregious as when someone is still living and can still spew hateful actions, words, motivating populations to do certain things, like present people who are not being bought and being boycotted. So I think there's a big the people who are dead, you can continue to debate, but I think the people who are living, it's like it's much more urgent that you not support them and their works and separate them and just not. Yeah, to me, that's sort of makes sense to me. No one for Arthur Rackham, huh? Arthur Rackham is a famous illustrator of Shakespeare. So if you look at some of Midsummer Night's Dream is the book that I had that had some really pretty Arthur Rackham illustrations. He's very good at drawing wood creatures and fairies and sort of whimsical, natural-looking characters, which is great. Oh, Greg has a copy of The Wind in the Willows, which is illustrated by Arthur Rackham. Yeah, exactly. Still living. Still living. Don't support him. All right. So we'll move on to prompt number 6, From the Dust Returned, which is Anita's mentioned collection. And the prompt is a book about a memorable family. A memorable family. Anyone got suggestions for this one? Oh dear. Well, the first one that I thought of was, of course, Grapes of Wrath, because the Jode family is put under hard times, impossible odds, and sort of make it through. So there's a lot of moral courage there. And then I thought, hey, you know what? You know what? I write about a memorable family. I have 3 books about this family going down different generations, different locations, different issues in history. And so I'm not going to shy away from that. Memorable family you will find in The Caning, The Grasping Root, and Stormwrack and Spindrift, which is the Remnants trilogy. Woohoo! A little tooting my own horn there because it is April, and that's my month. I own that month. So there we go. Memorable family. Gareth says, fairies, woodland, fantastical creatures. Give me Brian Froud any day. Yeah, Brian Froud, I think, did Lady Coddington's fairy book where it was pretended that like someone had captured the fairies and they were all smushed on the album. And I remember thinking that was cool at first and then being like, that's kind of gross. Like creative, but like not my vibe. Yeah, Devin says, do not support. Yep. Jim says, I'm getting some pushback for reading Voyage of the Beagle by Charles Darwin from the creationists. Ugh. And from those claiming Darwin was racist. I mean, he's formulating theories. I don't know what his theories. They may have been like the beginning of eugenics, but like that wasn't even invented. So I don't know if that's putting a modern lens on someone who was trying to categorize the world, you know. I was giving you pushback because it's such a boring book, but you know, if you're gonna make it through, more power to you. I think I had to for a class in college, and it was just dry. The creationist, though, please. Darwin changed the world, so that's different from choosing not to read a piece of fiction. Yeah, that might be like a critical thing, like why some people read the Bible, because like it's influenced so much of the world and culture that even if you don't believe in it or support it, it could be an interesting critical read. Jim says, memorable family, Little House on the Prairie. That's a good one. Yeah. I grew up with watching those along with Bonanza. And in both of those series, oh, now I forgot his name. Jonathan? Oh, shoot. What was the actor's name? He was also in Touched by an Angel. Anyway, he died young, and I remember that was sad. I was a good actor. Good to toot your own horn. There we go. Yes, love Remnants. Thank you, Devin. The McLean family, of course. You beat me to it. Thank you. Devin says, I can include the Pendragon Cycle by Stephen Lawhead. It's about King Arthur. Oh, as a memorable family? I suppose, yeah. Arthur Pendragon. I think I read one of Arthur Pendragon's. Thank you. The actor's name is Michael Landon. There you go. Yeah, that guy. With the hair. Oh, with the hair. Oh, yeah. Sorry, not Touch My Angel. That was a later one. Highway to Heaven was the one. You're totally right. Yeah. Watch that. I must have been young. Yeah. Highway to Heaven. Oh my gosh. Wow. The effects on that. That would be interesting to watch now. Jim says, memorable family, Little Women, also the Bennett sisters and Pride and Prejudice. Yeah. Has anyone here watched The Other Bennett Sister? I've been getting so many clips from it that I feel like I've watched it already, even though I don't have access. But it looks really good. Like a very sympathetic, alternative point of view adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, not like these endless Wuthering Heights shite kind of stuff. So yeah, Little Women. Very good. Good catch. Totally didn't catch the wrong title either. Highway to Heaven. Yeah. This is the generation before. Same idea though. All right. Prompt number 7. Elton John's Rocket Man, inspired by Ray. Oh, a song inspired by a book or story. That's right. So what do I have for this one? Oh, so I know lots of y'all are not on TikTok. I am. I don't really make videos for it anymore. I just scroll. And there's a trending audio, which is like people put audio to their videos, and sometimes if you use a very popular audio or very popular audio skit setup, it will help your video go viral. And there was one that I think takes a song that I don't know. There's lots of songs that only have certain clips go viral on TikTok. And this is one that's by like a modern emo band. But the clip that went viral is when it says, "The Shire is burning." And of course, that's talking about Lord of the Rings. But I don't know the song. I just know that there's a clip of it that's gone viral on TikTok. So help me out if you know that song. I'm sure some of you will know it. Eva says, my mom crushed on him. Yeah, on Michael Landon, for sure. I love the family and Life After Life. So Constance is saying Life After Life by Atkinson. Kate Atkinson. I was like, Kim? It's not Kim. Kate Atkinson. Gareth says, Eva, I get the impression he was cast as a good-looking lead man. Yes. Kate Bush, Wuthering Heights song inspired by book. Does she have a song called Wuthering Heights? Did I mix that? Miss that? Is that in Gareth's Kate Bush tag? I haven't done. Oh, The Todds of Fox Corner. Okay. I haven't read that. I haven't read Kate Atkinson, I don't think. Unless Started Early Took My Dog. I think that's Kate Atkinson. And I wasn't that impressed with it. So I should maybe give a different book a try. Yeah, nice mention of Kate. Excellent. My brother's had his hair cut. Oh, your brother's got the haircut like Michael Landon? That's crazy. Didn't even mention Kate in my video. All right. Bye, Rachel. Enjoy lunch. Cast of the replay. Perfect. One says White Rabbit by Jefferson Airplane. Oh, that's a good one. Go ask Alice when she's 10 feet tall. That's a good one. I love a good what inspired that story fun fact. Yeah, those are fun. Led Zeppelin had several references to Tolkien's Lord of the Rings in their song Ramble On. Yeah, you're right. Something about Mordor. I can remember that. So yeah, Led Zeppelin's a good one. Illiterate band. What's not to love? Gareth says, blimey, Margaret, you don't know her number one song, Wuthering Heights? It's what made her explode on the scene in 1978. Well, 1978 is before I was born, Gareth. And, it's not in the music era that my parents were in. So I didn't get it when I was growing up, and I didn't get it from their music collection. It was right in between. So, yeah. And my sisters were like 7 then. So they weren't into it yet either. So it just fell between the cracks. And I'm not a fan of the story anyway, so Devin says, one that I've been enjoying, a song inspired by a story, is Insane, a Has-Been Hotel song. Why does that sound familiar? By Black Griffin and Bassick. Has-Been Hotel. I think that's been mentioned on Booktube, maybe recommended to me. Husband Hotel. It's ringing vague bells. I must have looked it up a while ago. Iron Maiden has a song called The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Okay, that one I didn't know. And you know what? Besides my sister's rock t-shirts that had Iron Maiden on them, the only reference I have to Iron Maiden is Teenage Dirtbag. Listen to Iron Maiden, baby. What can I say? I am not hip. I'm a reader and I ignore most of the trends. Jim says Hawkwind Chronicle of the Black Sword was based on the Elric books by Michael Moorcock. So I'm thinking Hawkwind Chronicle is the title of a song and Black Sword is a band name. Again, out of my depth. There's too many bands to know, but I have heard of Michael Moorcock as a sci-fi fantasy author. Okay. That's cool. That's the one I mentioned in my video. The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. The 1900s. Hey, don't start that. Just surprised. It's a great song with a beautiful guitar solo at the end. Oh, nice. Cool. Husband Hotel is a popular animated show. Oh. Do they put their stuff on Instagram? I'm trying to think how I would have seen it. Why the name sounds familiar to me. Did Michael Moorcock write for Hawkwind? Oh, it gets deeper. Look at this. Hawkwind is the band. Oh, okay. Lemmy from Motorhead was in Hawkwind. I think I've heard of Motorhead. That's all I can give you. I'm woefully underprepared for any music discussion, so sorry about that. Prompt number 8. We'll always have Paris. Choose a book set in Europe. All right, so 8. Set in Europe. Oh, yeah. Let me do this one. This is back on Graph. And when you say Europe, I mean, they don't want to be called Europe anymore, but I'm going to call them Europe, which is England. Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana from 2022. It's another witch story. Let me see if I wrote it in here. Did I not? Okay. So I think this is the book that has some very specific Norfolk, something like Southeast Coast kind of references. And it was like, here's where the cottage is, and here's where we went to town, and here's where we went to uni. And it was all very English coded. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I've never been to any of those places, but I love that they actually rooted it in those less well-trafficked literary destinations, So that was cool. And if you've read this and you know the region because you're more up on the English destinations, let me know. Let's see. Okay, Julie says, but Gollum and the evil one crept up and slipped away with her. Yeah. Okay. So he talks about Gollum. Nice. Anita says, songs from Husband Hotel could have ended up on Instagram or TikTok. So it's an animated show, but it's also making songs? Or is it like theme songs, you mean? Okay, that's a possibility. Created by an indie animated studio, allowed to premiere on Amazon a few years after their pilot episode. Huh. England is Europe. Well, Brexit doesn't change geography. Yeah. The book I'm reading, so here's my second pitch for staying for the current reads. The book I'm currently reading, and there's only one, talks about Doggerland and a lot of the plants that came over Doggerland, which is like the land link between England and Europe, before the last melting, but when we had more glaciers, and so there was more ground visible, and the slugs came over, the beech trees came over. Like, it was funny what he was mentioning came over Doggerland. I hadn't heard that. Proud European. There we go. Europe is a continent, I thought. It is. It includes England. I'm just teasing. The book I'm reading now, Under Her Care, is set in Dublin. There you go. We got Ireland, definitely part of Europe, as the EU will attest. My son has memorized every national flag, so my geography teacher is 8 years old. That's great. The Velvet Underground took their name from the novel by Michael Lee. Oh, okay. That's cool. That's a cool title. I like that name. I just don't listen to them. Anita says animated musical horror show. All right. Right up your alley, Anita. I'm glad you can enjoy that. I had to step out to walk the dog. Bye, Devin. Get the boy from the bus stop. Have fun. Nice factoid about the Velvet Underground. Yeah. Steely Dan's name came from the novel Naked Lunch by William Burroughs. Okay. There's a horror and a half. Okay. And the Doors took their name from the Doors of Perception by Aldous Huxley. What? That's a new one to me, too. You guys know all these fun factoids. All right. So that's my book set in Europe. The next prompt, number 9, is skeleton. Choose a story or book with a plot containing body horror or a feeling of being trapped. All right. So the one I chose for this, and it's a very small pool because I'm not a horror reader, horror girly, is I'll pull this up again so I can show you the cover because that's more impactful. Wait, wrong window. There we go. Fine, don't display the cover. What the? Oh my gosh. There we go. There's a cover for you guys. That's not the one I read. That's the one I read. This is a cool cover, right? So Shutter by Rita Todachine. No, not by Rita, by Ramona Emerson, but it's the start of a series called Rita Todachine. She's the character. Okay, so I actually picked this up and then put it down because it was grossing me out. It starts with someone who is a murder scene, crime scene investigator, photographer, and she's investigating someone who is blown up, maybe. Anyway, she's looking at all these little bits of the person and trying to flag all of them to find all of the pieces to help with the crime scene investigation. I was just like, you're finding an eye, you're finding a viscera. Like, it was just so gross. So yeah, body horror. If that's not for you, you may have trouble with the beginning scene of this book. But yeah, then I came back to it. It's an indigenous mystery. It's really intense. It's really psychological. Like deep issues, and so really good. Just like strap in. Just say that. Yeah, so body horror or claustrophobia. And then I thought Steely Dan's name came from a sex toy. Okay. Prompt number 10, the last prompt, is Marionettes Inc. Choose a book or story with robots or a doppelganger in it. And I haven't read Doppelganger yet. By shoot, what's her name? Naomi. Jim, help me out. You're the one that recommended her to me. Anyway, Doppelganger, no, but robots, yes. And I just read this one, and I'll share this with you as well on the screen. Speaking of Becky Chambers, wow, it's not autofilling at all. See, what is this business? Ugh. Storygraph's not doing very well, it sounds like. So, Becky Chambers, different series from the one that was mentioned, but this is Monk and Robot, and I read the first one called A Psalm for the Wild Built, and I actually have A Prayer for the Crown Shy at home, so I can read it, but they didn't seem like you needed to read them right away, so it was very cozy, it was very comforting, and I think that that's a good book to save for a moment when you need it. I had this on my list since I was watching Beautifully Bookish Bethany, which was like the very start of Booktube for me back in 2020. Crazy. So it's been on my list for a while. It's about a monk and a robot. So we start out with the monk's POV, actually the whole time, but the monk is sort of dissatisfied. They're doing a great job. They found a good living, but they are dissatisfied with this future Earth that they're inhabiting, and they go into the wild, which is sort of a crazy thing to do. No human needs to do that. It's where the robots left and took refuge. So the humans aren't really supposed to go into the wild, but they do. And they meet a robot, which is like, whoa. And they sort of get to know each other, which is very tender and beautiful. And like I said, cozy. Really nice. Naomi Klein. Thank you, Jim. Why can't I think of anything today? Julie's having connection issues. Okay, we'll catch you on the rewatch. Lynn got to it first. Yeah, good job. The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, Memoir of Life and Death by Jean-Dominique Bobby, was a memoir of a former Vogue editor with locked-in syndrome. He could only communicate by blinking his eye. That's super scary. That's the sort of thing I can't read because it would really freak me out. Whenever I read about it, it does get me sort of anxious. So like, no, thank you. I didn't know that's what that book was about either. Oof. I'll be rereading Psalm for the Well-Built soon, as it was the only Chambers I wasn't fond of. Oh, I like everything else a lot. Oh, that's a bummer. I liked that one. Off topic, but Naomi Klein's husband has been elected as the federal NDP leader. Best choice of those who ran, in my not so humble opinion. NDP. Where is this? What district? What country? We'll be back for replay. Thank you, Constance. Have a great weekend. Julie, you are correct. William Esperoza originally wrote about the Steely Dan 3 from Yokohama. Oh, so the both are correct. There you go. Canada. NDP. I don't know which persuasion this party is of. If it's Naomi Klein's husband, I'm guessing it's on the left. Interesting. All right, so that was the last prompt, and we're here at the end of the hour, so I timed it just right. Just very quickly to remind folks, go bug these people. Rachel and Kim and Brian and Mike. These are really fun prompts, even if you're not a sci-fi reader, but hopefully it'll pique their curiosity and maybe they enjoy Ray Bradbury as litfic. Who knows? So great tag, Gareth. Thank you for tagging me. The two things I was just going to remind you at the end were there's more travel coming up for me, and the current read has something to do with the travel. So here it is. This book is called, hope you can see it here, Our Oaken Bones, Reviving a Family, a Farm, and a Britain's Ancient Rainforest by Merlin Hanbury Tennyson. Now, does it say what year? 2025. Okay, so it came out last year. I'm just listening to it now on audio from Libro.fm. And this is, it's a nature memoir, but there's a lot of other pieces in it. There's a bit about British military PTSD. There's a bit about a couple struggling with infertility. And then like the crux of it is this idea that they have to take this resource of a rainforest and steward it to make it available for more people to access its healing, which I think is lovely. And I'm learning some nature stuff, but it's pretty incidental. There's a lot more like memoir stuff, but it's sort of cross-stitched in. It's woven in. And I'm really enjoying this. I'm listening to it as I'm driving. And at one point, there's a quote where the author says, "Close your eyes and imagine something." And I was like, well, not if you're driving listening to this. But yeah, lots of cool things about the Cornish rainforest, the Atlantic temperate rainforest. And this is pushing me in a certain direction for my 3 days. So I was just going to write to them and see if they had availability, because they have a bread and breakfast in the middle of Bodmin Moor in Cornwall. And I'm like, is that not the perfect 3-day escape? Like, so that is really, really inspiring. Let's see. Back to the chat. Okay, it's one of the major parties and it's on the left. Okay, thank you. Political shorthand. Appreciate that. That is interesting. Yeah. Cat Plus is Locked In by John Scalzi was an interesting take. Okay, all right, John Scalzi. Thanks for tagging others too. Yeah, I really like that book. I think it's underrated. John Scalzi. Jim says currently reading Under Her Care by Fiona Gartland, which is the Dublin set in Dublin, I think you said. Summer Night by Jim Butcher and Voyage of the Beagles. You got 3 going. I've only got 1 for once. You beat me. Gareth says, can't wait to hear what you think of Cornwall. Yeah. Jamaica Inn is set on Bodmin Moor. Yeah, the thing is, I'm going to write to them and ask them how accessible it is, because if I'm just going there, getting maybe like picked up at the train station and then paying for a taxi one way, that's manageable if I can ramble around and visit places and get food. But if not, that's not really going to work out. So again, I gotta check all my logistics. Off topic, but 2x flare of 2.5 magnitude. I'm so tired. I worked for 14 hours yesterday proofing. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, I don't know if lying down will help, but time to lie down, either metaphorically or literally. Whew. Yes. Yes. Busy day yesterday sounds like. If you can listen to an audiobook, that might ease the mind off. Yeah, not braining well. I'm sorry. Well, I'm going to finish this live stream. Thank you to Gareth for making the fun tag, and thanks for joining to all of you and listening in. Tomorrow is Independent Bookstore Day, so I hope you get to support an independent bookstore anyhow, anyway, anyway. And we'll be back with regularly scheduled programming next week, Wednesday and Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific. Who knows what we'll be doing? I'm going to get a few rest days back in Portland before I figure that out. But yeah, we'll see. And again, thank you and take care, everyone. Happy reading. Yeah. And I'll talk to you again soon. Ciao.